Welcome to Inter-Party Conflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
My name is Jeff.
And we're going to play your audio today.
Oh, yeah.
But first, I have a question for Jeff.
Yeah.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. Really full of pasta right now because I just cooked some dinner and
Yeah.
So I have this habit of I'll use half a box of pasta to make dinner.
Okay.
And then I'll put the other half in the cupboard or something.
Sure.
And then when I go to make pasta the next time, I'll grab a fresh box.
Yep.
And so I had 3 or 4 mostly almost half full boxes of pasta, and I'm like, I need to do something with this.
Yeah.
This is just sitting open in my pantry. It's like this is gonna get a little stale and nasty or something eventually. I know and pasta probably doesn't go bad very quickly or anything.
It's pretty
pasta.
dry.
Yeah. So I was like, but I still should stop doing this. So I made more pasta than I normally do.
Sure.
Probably a little over a pound of pasta. But my eyes are always bigger than my stomach when it comes especially when it comes to pasta. I ate so much.
I mean, that's a good situation to be in, full of pasta, if I can say so. All right. Yeah. So listeners, today, what we're going to be doing today is our listener submissions episode. It's not going to be a normal episode of the show. We're kind of going to stick to the same sort of format, though. So we have a bunch of magic items that have been submitted. There's kind of a bunch that were part of a theme that were submitted that I thought of possibly just dedicating a whole episode to, but it's going to be a big chunk of this episode. Then we've got some stuff submitted by Alstar the Minotaur. We've got something submitted by Dustin, got something submitted by Nathan H, and something submitted by Matt E. So we've got a bunch of cool stuff, and hopefully it'll be fun to listen to. And we're still going to have our social media questions at the end, because there's a question that I wanted to do that didn't quite feel right to pose on a normal episode of the show.
Sure.
So yeah, I don't think we're going to do a drawing today. So sorry, we're not going to give out a free copy of Unearthed Tips and Tricks 2, but check in next week and we'll have one then. I guess before we get into anything else, I'll just quickly plug the Crit Nation Fellowship. Check out the other podcasts. Check out Crit Academy, critacademy.com. Check out Brute Force and Ignorance, which I believe should be coming back sometime soon. Check out D&D Character Lab. And then also, I actually realized that there is another podcast on the Crit Nation Fellowship that I didn't realize. They've been going for a few weeks now.
Oh, cool.
There's more than just podcast. I don't know if I've ever really explained what the Crit Nation Fellowship is. There's more than just podcasts. It's also a bunch of content creators. If you go to critnation.com, I believe will take you to Crit Academy's page of just all the different people on the network. I've only really been plugging the podcasts. I don't know why, but that just felt more natural to me. And one of the content creators that's on there is by the name of The Kind GM. Just started a podcast in addition to their YouTube channel and stuff like that.
Oh,
so
cool.
I think it's just called The Kind GM podcast. So check them out if you get a chance. I just found out about the other day. I haven't had a chance to listen to any of their episodes, so I assume they're good. Justin has a pretty good judge of what'll make for a good addition to the network. So yeah, so check out all those other podcasts. Again, go to critnation.com, and there's more than just podcasts on there too. So check those out. And just a big thank you to everybody for listening and supporting us over the last 4 years. We're going to start a new year of episodes coming up next week. So enjoy this episode, and we'll see what we get to next week. So Jeff, I want you to imagine you find yourself in a cold study, poring over the documents found during your last adventure. Ink stains on your hands cover up the fact that they have turned blue from the chill. Your stove has long since gone out. Suddenly, there is a brisk knocking on the door. There stands a footman dressed in the finest silk suit sporting the filigree of the local aristocracy. He presents a letter of invitation to the night's gala.
Oh.
When you accept, you are guided to a carriage pulled by a majestic unicorn. You enter the cabin and find a tuxedo accompanied by a top hat, cane, silk gloves, and other accessories.
Oh, nice.
The carriage ride brings you to the steps of the ducal residence. Giant banners portray the talent in residence. The greatest entertainers of dragonkind for one night only. The Dragons 4. That Dragon's Horde intro, or the Dragons 4 intro, was submitted by Dustin. So thank you, Dustin.
Oh, yeah.
So we actually have a quick little introduction here from Dave, or Stiltskin Kupo 84, who submitted some of the items we're about to be covering.
Wait, is this like a dragon quartet?
I guess, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Now I'm desperately scrambling to find a pun in there. The Dragon Shop Quartet?
The Dragon Shop Quartet.
I don't know.
The Dragon's Horde Quartet. I don't know.
I guess. So we have a quick little intro from Dave, who will get you up to speed on what you're about to hear.
Hello, everyone. This is Stiltskin Kupo 84. Welcome to the magical items segment of the user submitted episode. I'd like to kick things off just by explaining sort of how the fancy magic items thing happened. I think it was Peace Joy Pancakes who first introduced the idea. There was some sort of a magical item that referenced tapping, and she was like, wow, Gabe, I thought that would lead down like a tap dancing sort of a path. And then she sort of mused that it would be funny to have magical items and something connected to fancy dragons in tuxedos, etc. And I'm not sure that the fancy items all touched on that theme, but definitely tap dancing dragons is a funny concept. Dustin wrote like a short stylized intro, and then Dustin and the beverage tea began just like shooting magic items back and forth, and so I got in on it and I did a couple of magic items, and Peace Joy also eventually submitted one, and then I curated like a whole list of these over the last year, and I gave Gabe a master file. I think these will probably be recorded, and then Gabe will mix them and play them so that, you know, we're taking turns presenting our items, and it'll be a group effort on record, because it has been a group effort between the four of us pretty much off the mic for the entire time. And I'm incredibly happy to be friends with these people, all talented people with very big imaginations for D&D, and so here it is. Enjoy the fancy magic items, guys.
So we have 11 items that we're going to talk about today. A few of those were recorded by Dave. He tried to get some of the other creators to submit theirs, but for whatever reason they didn't. So in the meantime, Jeff and I will just, I guess, alternate doing these. Do you want to start with the first one, or should I?
Why don't you start?
Okay, so our first item is the Staff of the Ritz, submitted by Dustin via Discord. These are all submitted by Discord.
Ding.
This short, thin ebony staff is capped with polished ivory. When grasped, it begins to thrum in a quick, sharp staccato. The staff grants its wielder +2 dodge, so I'm guessing +2 AC or dexterity saving throws, as they are compelled to dance out of the way of danger. Once per short rest, they can cast Hypnotic Pattern. All who fail their save are compelled to dance for the duration of the effect. So, relatively simple, you know, +2 to AC or dexterity saves, and you can make everybody else dance with you.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
So a few of the other items reference this one. It actually, Dave didn't have this one first. He had it like third or fourth, but I put it first so the others would reference it correctly. Another thing that with these fancy magic items is I thought it would be really cool if they had there were set bonuses, like if you had multiples, different things. I didn't come up with anything good. If anybody out there wants to come up with, potential set bonuses, I think that could enhance something like this.
They're like the Infinity Stones.
Sure.
But it's fancy. It's fancy attire.
Fancy attire, exactly.
Yeah. It's all like, they're powerful on their own, great in combination, and when you get them all together, oh boy.
Yep.
All right, the next one is the top hat of the Hip Tap Cat. This was by the Beverage Tea. When the wearer of the top hat of Hip Tap Cat, first grasps the staff of the Ritz, a fluid, ethereal, elegant stream of shimmering light sparkles as it cascades from the brim of the hat to whatever footwear the wearer may be wearing. Sorry, druids, you need shoes for this item to work. What?
Yep.
Clickety clackety, it's time for rhythm attackety. I'm sorry, these are making me giggle.
It's fine. It's fine. That's perfectly acceptable.
With a zesty pop, taps appear upon the soles of the wearer's shoes. Duration 1 hour or until the hat staff combination is broken. So if you lose either the hat or the staff. Yep. As a reaction, the wearer can cast Thunder Wave against a target that has successfully hit the wearer with a melee attack. And this is 2 times per short rest or once for each shoe.
Yes. So I'm imagining somebody hits you and you do, like you tap your foot on the floor, a trumpeter off in the distance, punctuates your tap with or whatever, and then it thunder waves the target away from you.
Yeah, I got you.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's cool. Here's a question for you, Jeff.
Right.
Would you, if you were running a game that had this item, would you allow a barefoot Warforged to use this item?
Oh, sure. Well, yeah, because it's like the Warforged components kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So like part of their foot just turns into these taps.
Right. Yeah. It's like a transformer thing, or I don't know. Well, because you could attach a weapon to their arm or whatever.
Sure.
So I don't see why not. They're already made some sort of metal composite or something. So
yeah. I wonder if maybe this is trying to imply that druids, in addition to not wearing shoes, druids are unable to tap dance.
Druids can't dance. It's just one of those yeah.
Yep. All right. So we actually have 2 items that are both monocles. I thought of cutting out one of them because you don't need 2 monocles, but then I thought the image of someone with two monocles.
Yeah.
That's just too good, So our next item is the Monocle of Respawn. And this is submitted by the Beverage Tea. Probably legendary, it says. Definitely needs to be attuned. When worn during combat and no bonus actions or movement is taken, the wearer can target one enemy and say the magic word or phrase in the enemy's accent. And then in parentheses it says, imagine Gabe speaking common with his hands in front of his mouth as a goblin accent. Once per turn for 2 rounds. The targets will immediately and loudly pop out of existence from the battlefield and will reappear in their childhood homes. DM tip, make the target say a juicy swear in the same accent when they respawn. The end.
The end.
I love the format that this is written in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you make somebody start their life over.
Yep. I mean, I guess sort of. Not you don't start over as like a baby, but you get sent back to your respawn point.
Oh, okay. I got you. In their childhood homes. All right. I just thought it'd be funny, like, if you sent them back in time to their childhood and they had to start life over, but that if it was like a bad guy, they would come back more powerful because they knew, like, they basically like knew all the things that were going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's it's the Biff from
Back to the Future 2, sure.
Right.
Sure.
It's like giving him the almanac kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of.
He has the almanac of his own life because he lived it, and then you send him back in time, and then it's like, well, now he's just that much more powerful because he knows what to do. He knows how to do it better this time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that would definitely be a legendary item. That would actually be that would be artifact level right there.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess you can pretty much just instantly and without save, you can teleport someone potentially across the world. I guess.
You do it to a lich, and like he goes back and he's now a living baby, and he's like crap. Well, I still want to be a lich, but now since I know how to do it already. Like he becomes a lich as a child, so
oh boy,
he revisits the party as like a baby lich or something.
That's opening a can of worms right there. And not just the worms that would be crawling through the lich's decaying body.
Right, of course. The next one is The Monocle of Pomposity by Dustin. In the age of ever-shifting social strata, or is it strata? Anyway.
Sure.
It is imperative that one knows their place. In the past, it was simply a matter of appearance. One's clothes were a veritable badge of status, but in this era of adventuring, sackcloth can clothe kings. Therefore, it falls to magic to sort out what's what. This piece of fine ground glass is housed in the purest gold filigree and fastened to the waistcoat by an almost imperceptibly thin thread of unbreakable silk. Donning this ocular accoutrement grants one the ability to see exactly how much wealth anyone has. Oh, sorry. I'm getting ideas already just reading this.
Okay.
In addition, it bolsters confidence over one's lessers, granting advantage on all charismatic endeavors involving anyone poorer than the wearer. Unfortunately, status works both ways, and one must show deference to those above. So you get advantage on all charisma saves, checks, and skills dealing with anyone poorer than you, but disadvantage on any charisma saves, checks, and skills dealing with anyone richer than you.
Yeah.
This makes me think of Death Note, where you can make the deal with the Shinigami to like you cut your lifespan in half, but then you now can see everyone's name and lifespan like floating above their head or whatever.
So you know how much longer everyone has to live.
Right. So like this could be like you make a deal with some like genie or something, and like they cut your wealth in half, but now you can see everyone's wealth or something. Like,
okay.
I don't know what advantage that would give you that'd be worth getting rid of half of your health or your wealth, but
I mean, well, like this item says you get advantage on all charisma saves, checks, and skills. So if you're really able to take advantage of that,
right.
You know, I mean, to an extent, the rich become richer by exploiting the poorer. So if you cut your wealth in half in order to be able to better manipulate everyone below you, it'd be pretty easy to make your way back up.
Sure, yeah. Or you would know who the rich guy is to rob.
Sure. There you go. Oh my goodness.
It's like, oh, this guy's worth a lot. Like you just see their bank account totals like just
pretty
floating
much,
above their head.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. So the next item we have is the mustache of Sir Poshington of Poshcastle, submitted by Peace Joy Pancakes. You're having a nice stroll. Then suddenly you see a familiar face in the crowd. It is Talkative McTalkface, a former classmate you never wanted to meet again. Horrifyingly, they seem to have noticed you and make a beeline towards your position. You scramble to fish a fake mustache out of the inside pocket of your jacket and slap it on your face just before McTalkface reaches you. Hello, they say way too excitedly. It's been ages. How are you? Excuse me, you must be mistaking me for someone else. I am Sir Poshington of Poshcastle, the famous and thrice-knighted tap dance star. We don't know each other. You roll for your disguise and you add plus 25 because you're amazing.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I must have mistaken you, they say, slightly confused. But since we bumped into each other, can I take a picture with you and have an autograph, Sir Poshington? Your disguise was too good. This is hell.
Oh, no.
Anyways, what I'm saying is, or what Peace Joy Pancakes said is, disguise kit and or deception, added bonus. In contrast to stealth, this will hide your identity from security cameras. The drawback, however, is be careful when impersonating someone famous. You might regret the consequences. So yeah, it's a fake mustache that gives you a huge bonus to deception or to disguise yourself. It's like a disguise kit with like a plus 25 bonus or whatever.
It's just a mustache.
So you can like almost unerringly give yourself a great disguise. However, it will have drawbacks because now you are this famous person or whoever you said you were.
Right. Yeah. It's too convincing. You know.
Yes. So next up, we have an item from that Dave submitted, and Stiltskin Kupo 84 also has some audio, so enjoy that audio.
The Breath Spray of the Barbershop Quartet by Stiltskin Kupo 84. Upon using, the wearer's vocal cords are coated with pure vocal talent. Twice per long rest, the wearer may choose any one singing voice they have heard and mimic that person's singing voice exactly for a period of 1d4 hours after the spray is applied. If a short rest is observed, for intermission, they may then spray a second time and change their voice to reflect another person's exact singing voice for 1d4 hours. The total number of singing voices that the user can ever mimic is equal to 1 plus their charisma modifier. They are also magically able to sing in tune with any individual who is not tone deaf during the spray's duration. They may use their own voice or any of the voices they have chosen to mimic prior. The user's breath is also rendered minty fresh for the duration of the magical effect. The spray does not grant the user the ability to sing like a creature whose vocal cord structure is not humanoid, nor does it grant the user the ability to speak a language sung by their chosen singer if that language is different from their own. If singing in an unknown language, the DM may decide to what extent the singer understands the theme and tone of what they are singing, but a direct translation of words cannot be reached, short of learning or comprehending that language by other means.
Now we have the bow tie of the Dapper Drider.
Yes.
This was by Dustin. Crafted in the style of its namesake, this bow tie sports a central obsidian torso with legs making up the flared portions. Speaking the word of activation causes the figurine to jump to life, scurrying over your outfit, repairing it as per the mending spell. In addition, you gain advantage on insight checks as you are better equipped to follow the weave of conversation. A person of class must also be protected without appearing arms, so once per day the tie can cast web, allowing you to extradite yourself from any hostile environment.
There you go. Yeah, that's kind of neat. I like how it repairs your clothes. If anything bad happens to your clothes, it fixes them.
Yeah, like it's a little spider that sews your clothes back together. It's super cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And yeah, I like that you are so confident because of your clothes are not torn up anymore or whatever, that you're better able to follow the conversation and pay attention to the subtle, the nonverbal cues and
right.
Such. I also love you can just cast web.
Yep. Just
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah, that's a neat one. And then we have another audio from Stiltskin Kupo 84, the titillating tailcoat of tall tale telling.
The Titillating Tailcoat of Tall Tale Telling by Stiltskin Kupo 84. There once was an eccentric performer who kept his real name hidden from public knowledge, such that the only historical records of him are through oral tradition and in the written form of the following symbol configuration, which looks like a half-impressed smiley face with a star over one eye. Another means of identifying him was by his tailcoat, as he was popularly referred to as the artist formerly known as the wearer of the titillating tailcoat. It was once a very flashy, mundane item, but after decades of being worn by such a tremendously charismatic performer, and in the company of so many other charismatic celebrities, it became a magical tailcoat. This was proven after the artist died tragically young, and several court wizards identified it as magical in composition. However, the nature of the magic was never publicly ascertained, and therefore it became a throwaway object in the sight of kings, but was highly sought after by the bards, who had idolized the artist as they were coming into their careers. Now, the tailcoat is magical, but it does absolutely nothing for someone that doesn't already have the gift. And that gift is charisma, baby. Your charisma modifier is the key to unlocking this tailcoat's power. Whoever wears this tailcoat may begin telling a story that will fully enrapture a crowd of your charisma modifier times a d12 people for your charisma mod times a d12 minutes. They may do this a number of times per day equal to their charisma mod, but only once per short rest. In order to capture the crowd, the wearer must begin the story by telling a number of exciting and/or interesting truths equal to their charisma modifier. Once this is achieved, the wearer may then enhance or embellish, basically lie, a number of times equal to the charisma mod, and all who listen must believe the spectacle over the reality without a shadow of a doubt for a number of years equal to the wearer's charisma mod. If the wearer is caught in a lie, or if the deceived somehow acquire contradictory information, they will be able to disbelieve the spectacle in favor of the truth if they wish to. If the deceived do not wish to believe, they may live on blissfully unaware of the truth until they die, idolizing the tailcoat's wearer for the rest of their natural lives. The downside is that this tailcoat is rumored to be cursed. In actuality, the titillating tailcoat has gained a faint glimmer of sentience from having encountered such a wide swath of influential people. It is an intelligent item which feeds off the wearer's life force. It shaves a number of years off the back end of the wearer's natural life, equal to their charisma mod, and will do this again for every time the wearer is magically resurrected, until such time as the resurrection fails, and many mourners must weep and proclaim, he or she was a gift to the world who died too soon. The cleric who performs this last failed resurrection loses one use of that spell slot until after the next long rest, during which they must genuinely weep. The weeping can be for any in-game reason, but the players at the table must reference what doves cry regardless. If the failed resurrection is performed by a magic item or scroll, that charge remains used forever, in effect reducing that item's max number of charges by 1, even if the item can be recharged by magical means. There are another 2 paragraphs, which are very long, that describe the tailcoat's behavior, if it has indeed decided that its host is dead and begins to want a new one, or if it just comes into the presence of someone with a naturally higher charisma modifier and wants to switch hosts before the old host was dead. But I'll let Gabe put those in the show notes for you guys, and just know that those mechanics do exist if you want to read up on them.
Next up, we have the Cummerbund of Panache, submitted by the Beverage Tea. Are you a klutz, a doofus, a bumbling buffoon, or a royal dingus?
I'm listening.
Don't worry, we have you covered. When you don one of our Cummerbunds of Panache, you instantly transform into the graceful swan of your dreams. This cursed item is usually spotted near staffs of the Ritz and top hats of Hip Tap Cats, but it is really a test for greed and insecurity. Those who just have to have everything, or who doubt their own abilities and place their faith in magic items alone, will rue the day. They will rue it, I say, that they clip this Cummerbund in place. 10 minutes after putting on the Cummerbund of Panache, the wearer will dramatically feel a sinking sensation in their stomach as they start to sprout beautiful white feathers and an elegant bill. The wearer suffers the effects of polymorph as a swan for 1 hour, no save possible.
Oh no.
So yeah, this one, I think this is the only one in the group that is explicitly a cursed item.
Right.
Unless you wanted to be a
swan.
A swan for an hour, I guess.
Yeah. Hey, at least it's only an hour.
That's true.
It's not just like, well, you're a swan now. Good luck.
Right. So next up, we have another audio from Stiltskin Koopa 84, and he's talking about the swingin' shoes of Scathmandu.
The Swingin' Shoes of Scatmandu by Stiltskin Koopa 84. The Swingin' Scatman was an entertainment legend out of the province of Scatmandu. Once per short rest, by scatting a cappella, the singer may conjure any brass musical instrument, as in the Ghost Sound cantrip, to dance to. Having used a minor action to scat, the performer may then bust into a swing dance with up to one willing partner, granting both of them a +2 to athletics and acrobatics checks, while starting their turns adjacent to each other. This +2 applies to all grappling and throwing maneuvers, as well as high jumps, long jumps, pushes, and pulls. If used against an unwilling target in combat, the target pushed or pulled does not gain the bonuses and must make an athletics check set by the DM, or be slid a number of squares equal to the user's charisma modifier. The target must not be more than one size category larger, or they automatically succeed. The the target is the same size, the number of squares they can be pushed or pulled is reduced by 1. If they are one size larger, the number of squares is reduced by 2, with a 1 square minimum. Upon scatting, the Scatman uses a number of d6 equal to their dexterity mod, minimum of 2d6, to determine the number of rounds the brass will play before the swing dance ends.
All right, the next item is the Pocket Square of Defense by the Beverage Tea. This is a rare, wondrous item. Are you dressing for a night at the Ducal Palace, but you're not sure who else is invited? Is it a black tie affair, but you'd rather go in your stoutest plate? Do you love the look of silk, but prefer the security of steel? Well, look no further than the Pocket Square of Defense. It's like a pocket. It's like a square. Anyway,
it's like a little handkerchief.
Right, yeah, but it's also like pocket protector. I don't know.
Sure.
To the untrained eye, this murine silk square is the perfect accessory for your coat pocket. Coming in an array of heraldic color schemes, this pocket square is decorated with beautiful geometric shapes that can be folded into archaic symbols of protection. Fingers of Phoenix can coax this simple silken square into a magical rune that grants the wearer's effects of mage armor once per moon cycle. Now you can feel free to don that tuxedo in the face of that bastard Shardrick of Sharsdale in a garden duel, should the occasion arise. Party with confidence, young dandy.
Okay. There you go. So yeah, it's like a little, a silk handkerchief. And I probably cut this out, but we were trying to figure out what murine meant, and I'm pretty sure that means like the silk is made from the fur of a mouse.
Yeah, it's a type of rodent.
Rodent, yeah.
Yeah, there's minx fur was a popular upscale fur for clothing and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a little handkerchief you put in your pocket that you can use to give yourself mage armor. My only problem with this is that it's a once per month mage armor. That's not a rare item. It's like a common item basically.
Sure.
Unless it lasts for a really long time.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. But I mean, I get that as you're putting the tux on as an occasion anyway, so you're not going to be using it often. But yeah. But yeah, you're right. Like if it's just mage armor once a month, then yeah, I wouldn't make that rare either.
Sure. Otherwise, I mean, it was a little hard to read from the sounds of it, but it was pretty well written.
Yeah.
I think I said earlier there were 11. I guess there are 12 of these. Sorry about that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I said 12. I can't remember. But our 12th and final item is Pennies from Heaven, submitted by the Beverage Tea. It's a wondrous item, very rare, originally carried by Joaquin's Deva. These angelic currency pieces add a touch of class to any dashing coin flipper about town. These coins never lose their shine, nor become lost to their owner. Should a pickpocket nick one of these from the owner's pocket, the coin instantly increases in weight to 200 pounds, and the stamp of Joaquin starts to sing Pennies from Heaven, which can be heard by all in a 30-foot radius. These coins have 3 charges. One charge can be used to gain one of the following effects. First is 1 use of the Friendship spell, 1 use of Melf's Minute Meteors spell, where the meteors are silver pieces. I'm actually not at all familiar with that spell. I'll have to look in more recent books and see what book that was in. And the last use is 1 use of the Command spell. These coins gain 1d4 minus 1 charges after the first alcoholic drink of the day is consumed.
So, those were my contributions to the fancy items list. I wanted to end with a closer that I believe it's an honor to be a part of the show, and I thank you, Gabe, for opening up this opportunity to us. And I'd like to stand in celebration of a new year ahead. Thank you, and Jeff, for all you do to make the show as cool as it is, and can't wait to hang with you guys for another year on Discord, and hopefully much longer, because I really like the show. This has been Stiltskin Cupo 84, signing off. Thanks, guys.
Well, thank you so much, Stiltskin Koopo 84. That really meant a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, those were the fancy pants items that were submitted by Stiltskin Koopo 84, Dustin, Beverage Tea, and Peace Roy Pancakes.
Yeah, but a bunch of fancy pantses.
Right. Yeah, they submitted these several months ago, and like at one point I had the idea to try and have like just instead of having questions one episode, just to have like a really long Dragon's Horde.
Right.
But that idea kind of fell by the wayside as it was getting close to the end of the year, and I was trying to figure out what other stuff we were trying to do. And so anyway, I thought this was a good opportunity to bring those in, and big thank you to Stiltskin Koopo 84 for spearheading that and sending us in some audio and so on. So yeah, big thank you to everybody, especially Dave. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Next up, we have a character backstory of the character Vlad submitted by Alistar the Minotaur.
Hi guys, it's Alistar the Minotaur here, and I wanted to bring you the story of Vlad. Hello my friends, my name is Vlad. I'm a brawler by trade. I started my career on a pirate ship with my friend Shaira, traveling down the coast of what you would know as Colombia, looking for the Fountain of Youth. We shipwrecked on a deserted stretch of beach and made our way inland. We fought many monsters, including giant wasps and a frightening bunny with a maw that seemed to open to the lower plains. We also had a close call with a group of cannibals who decided not to eat us after we started the flash kick line while singing, "Always look on bright side of life." After delving deep into an underground bunker, we found the fountain, but it was not all it seemed. A blood mage used its waters, along with ritual sacrifices, to extend his life. We defeated him when I tackled him to the ground while he had a book's worth of explosive runes in his back pocket, destroying him, the fountain, and myself in the process. As luck would have it, the waters of the fountain brought me back to life. I have since retired from adventuring to open the world-famous International House of Pancake. But I always have Berta and Bertha, my exes, by my side.
All right, thank you, Alistar. Next up, we have this is a submission that I'm actually going to be reading. It was just submitted in text. It was submitted by Matt E, and Matt E is giving us some advice for new DMs, which I thought was pretty cool. I am a first-time DM currently running a homebrewed campaign where only one of my players has ever played any retro SNES games, so I planned to flesh out a campaign that was heavily inspired by the Chrono Trigger franchise. I just want to interject here. Double thumbs up for me. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
This is also two of my players' first time playing D&D, so I knew I needed a great first session to hook them. I started the players off meeting in the Millennial Fair, much like in the game, a halfling rogue, a half-elf warlock, and a dragonborn paladin. But as I thought more and more about the arc as a whole and how to put my own spin on it, it quickly turned into my own creation, with subtle nods to the franchise for certain characters. In the first session, possible spoilers for Chrono Trigger, but I don't think any of our listeners will be upset. Seriously, this game's like almost 30 years old at this point. Instead of fighting a dragon, they were investigating sightings in their starting town. The party stumbled upon an army of kobolds that, through vast numbers, had subdued and crippled a clockwork dragon, which was being piloted by a gnomish tinkerer who had built the creation on the side. Heavy influence from the Chrono Trigger franchise on this character. I reskinned a young bronze dragon for its stat block, but removed its claw attacks and dropped its AC and hit points a tad. All of the dragon was completely offline due to attacks prior to the party joining the encounter, with the exception of its head and its torso. And I gave it a pair of mortar cannons from Matt Mercer's Gunslinger build on its back so it could help the party with range attacks and with its breath weapon. I then threw the party against way more kobolds than any first level party should be able to handle. There was also a kobold leader out of range of the dragon that could use a lair action to call more kobolds to attack the dragon. So the players had to strategize how to reach the leader on top of a cliff face to stop the oncoming wave of enemies. Overall, it was an awesome first encounter that got my new players hooked in, and the veteran player, who I know has played Chrono Trigger, was completely caught off guard. It was definitely an extremely rewarding experience, and I would highly recommend to any DMs out there looking to homebrew their own campaign, look no further than your favorite childhood RPGs for initial inspiration to act as a springboard to get you started. I'm fortunate enough that I've had the time to write the campaign with markers of where I want them to eventually go. One character is making preparations to leave town in 3 days' time and has asked them to come with them as support when the time comes. but I have a number of encounters ready to go in case they decide to stray off the beaten path, and I'm ready to quickly retrofit these inside jokes and musings of the party into these encounters based off the things my players latch onto and take interest in. I'm sure some of the things I've set up violate a few D&D rules as written, but overall the players are all thoroughly enjoying the campaign thus far. Thanks for everything. Have a great holiday season. And yeah, I think that starting with role-playing games that, video games, whatever, even movies, anything that you know really well is a great starting point. Even if it's something you're afraid the rest of the party is all going to know, I guarantee you it's going to end up such a different beast when you finally run it. So much is going to be different that it's very likely nobody's even going to realize for quite a while what you drew inspiration from. And I mean, hey, if they do start to notice like, oh, some of the plot is like in this movie or whatever, just change it. As long as you might have some issues in that session, but then hey, just use the time before the next session to make some alteration, maybe play with their expectations and so on.
Yeah, I feel like in most cases, by the time they get to that point, it's already kind of become its own thing anyway.
Yeah. Because even like there have been times where I have played in a campaign that was using a pre-written module that I myself have read or run before, and I often don't even realize it. Like I will not realize that we are playing through a module I've already played through until maybe halfway through the thing, because everybody is going to play it differently. Every DM is going to describe things differently. Different things are going to happen. It's very easy to get around familiarity in that sort of thing. So yeah, go hog wild. As long as you get your foot in the door, as long as you get something going, you're gonna have a great starting point, and then the sky's the limit after that. So yeah, good job, Matt E. Thank you for sending that in. All right, next up we have a little recording from Nathan H, aka Seawood Scribe. He wrote out, but then he was kind enough to record it for us as well. Nathan wrote out a kind of like a little mini campaign summary of a campaign that he ran called Dracula's Banquet. And from reading it, it was really cool. So I'm very happy that Nathan was willing to record this for us. So enjoy Nathan's mini campaign summary.
Hey Gabe, hey Jeff. Thank you so much for 200 plus episodes of amazing and entertaining content. Especially to Dustin and Stiltskin Kupo 84. Thank you for keeping the Discord always popping. I wish I was on there more than I was. For today's special episode, I wanted to share a highlights reel of a mini campaign that I just ran. It was Halloween themed. We did 6 sessions over the course of October and November. It was me as the DM and 3 of my friends as the players. They were Alec the Werewolf. That's a class from my Strahd's Manual of Shadow book. Floshara the Etherkin Assassin, Etherkin being a race from the book as well. And Father Madre, the off-brand Catholic cleric. The adventure was called Dracula's Banquet. Dracula has summoned the party to dine with him, to explore his castle, and face the challenges therein, and finally, when they feel so bold, to confront him in combat to the death. Dracula, having grown bored in his immortal splendor, has done this with heroes throughout the ages, and has yet to find a worthy challenger. Might these 3 heroes have what it takes to defeat him? He explains to them that he has trapped slivers of his power into 6 artifacts hidden throughout the castle. Pseudo-phylacteries, or horcruxes, if you will. The party may confront Dracula and fight him whenever they wish. But if they brave the hazards of the castle and destroy the 6 artifacts, Dracula will be significantly weakened. Each artifact, however, is guarded by a famous Halloween monster. So here's a list of the artifacts, what stats they boost, and who their guardians are. The Enhanced Strength artifact was hidden in a corn maze full of Stephen King baddies, including Cujo, That, also known as Nickeldum the Clown, and Jack Torrance. The Enhanced Constitution artifact was guarded by Frankenstein's monster. The Enhanced Charisma artifact guarded by the Addams family, and that one wasn't a combat encounter, it was a social and puzzle-based encounter. Dracula had an expanded list of prepared spells, which was hidden inside the Mirror of Desire, the magic item that I submitted a while back, which was also at the top of a tower with David S. pumpkins on every floor. Also not a combat encounter. That one was a social and puzzle encounter. David Pumpkins kept posing riddles to them, like bad at Halloween riddles. What room do ghosts avoid? The living room! And dumb stuff like that. Dracula's ability to summon swarms was guarded by Jack Skellington on an underground lake of thin ice, which almost killed the werewolf as he fell through the ice and nearly froze to death. And Dracula's lair actions were maintained by Jigsaw. And that one was a puzzle encounter rather than a combat encounter. So I had 3 combat encounters and 3 puzzle or social or skill-based encounters. Throughout the castle, there were also unexpected allies, magic items, some of which were cursed, and hidden glimpses into Dracula's past, which might offer insight into how to defeat him. The party of the 3 characters, they were 5th level. They had a ton of fun exploring the castle and taking on the challenges. Dracula followed them, lurking in the shadows and often taunting them. And at one point he actually stepped in and saved them from a TPK that, it was a random encounter that turned out a whole lot more deadly than I expected. But I felt that was in character because, after all, Dracula wants the party to entertain him, and they can't entertain him if they die prematurely. The party developed a deep love-hate relationship with him as they relied on him to keep them alive, but they ultimately planned on fighting him to the death. That was really fun for me because I felt like I really captured the essence of a vampire villain in that love-hate tension. In the penultimate session, they learned that Dracula, formerly Vlad the Impaler, is a formidable warrior, but his biggest strength is his cunning. He watches his enemies before fighting them to learn what they are capable of. Which, of course, Dracula has been doing to the party all along. So, even though he will be weakened in 6 different ways when they finally fight him, he'll have spells prepared and a combat strategy specifically designed to counter each of the party members. The final confrontation was a combat encounter that lasted so long that 1-minute-long concentration spells and abilities actually ran out of time. But because there was only 1 baddie and 3 PCs, it stayed fast, engaging, and entertaining for everyone. Love having a small party. It makes combat so much faster and so much funner. The battle raged throughout the entire castle that they spent the past 5 sessions exploring, so it never developed into I hit you, you hit me. And though I tried my hardest, the party finally did kill Dracula, and they prevented him from respawning by defiling his coffin and surrounding it with a magic circle. After centuries of taunting and devouring heroes, Dracula was finally laid to rest.
All right. Thank you so much, See What Scribe. That was really, really cool. I really enjoyed listening to that. Thank you. This next one is from Dustin. It is Dustin sent us in a file of him giving just some general DM advice, and he gave a lot of it, and it's all pretty good. So it's kind of long, but it's good. So I guarantee you'll enjoy just listen to the whole thing. And then afterwards, we've still got our social media questions. So stay tuned.
Hello, everybody. This is Dustin. I thought that for the end of year listener submitted extravaganza, I would share a few points that I have learned in my intro time as DM. I have been playing D&D since 3.5. I started back in college around 2007, so 13, I guess. I played several campaigns through 3.5. I played through a bit of 4. I played through several homebrew systems, a little bit of Pathfinder, and then finally 5th edition. I didn't start DMing until I was at an Adventurers League event years ago, and there were too many people and not enough DMs. So they had me DM a one-shot that turned out to be deadly for one of the players. I think I mentioned in one of my funeral pyres. Basically, warrior goes up against Illithid, Illithid chomps warrior. And I learned several things in that specific event. One of the first things that I realized is that as a DM, it has to be about the player's satisfaction. That particular module was set up to be incredibly deadly, incredibly intense, and there were several moments where I had to break the rules to ease down the events because the party would have died in round 1 had things happened the way they mechanically should have happened. Which kind of brings me to the main thing that I have learned as a DM, is that you need to know what your DM style is. Some DMs are fine with the crunchy numbers simulation aspect of the game, where they want the heavy combats. They want almost a Warhammer-like game with their players, and that's fine, but that's not me. I am much more of a storyteller, and in that I realized the big thing, that if my players die, the story ends, and that kind of ends the game, or complicates matters, because you can only resurrect a body so many times before things start falling apart. You can only resurrect a story so many times before things start falling apart. Once you know what you want as a DM, whether it's, mechanics-based combat, story-driven intrigue, or a mix of the two, you need to find the players that want the same thing. You want to know what they want. And this is, in a general sense, finding the right players for your table, but also session to session. What do your players want? I have had sessions in my homebrew game where I had created this elaborate arena with multiple puzzles and tricks and robots and combat, and the players enjoyed that, but they far more enjoyed the random moment in the bar prior where I had spur of the moment made up a alcohol called firewater that gave you disadvantage if you rolled below a certain level, or knocked you unconscious if you rolled a natural one. And the game suddenly became Russian roulette with whiskey, seeing how many times they could drink this before they passed out. And that to them was far more fun and enjoyable than the actual campaign, because, the characters came out, each of them role-played in their own situation, and in that session, that's what they wanted, that's what they enjoyed. Now, if I did that every session, it would get old, it would get boring. Some days they come to game, that's not what they want. They want to get on with the story. They don't want to faff about, they want to proceed forward. And I've had comments on both sides, so you have to balance it out. You have to find not only what your players want over the long term, but what they want in the short term. And don't be afraid to change things out. And that kind of leads me to my next point, is your players don't know what the plan is. They should have an inkling of what the plot is. They should have an idea of where the game is heading, because if they don't know, then you've done you've done wrong in the foreshadowing, in setting up the plot. But moment to moment, room to room, the party doesn't know what's there. So you can adjust in the background like crazy, and I have done this throughout all of my games, from the very first time I DM'd, where I had to radically change the rules on the fly, move things around, throw health potions in where they weren't before, move monsters around the side, from that game, because it was going to straight up kill the party. And especially in Adventurers League, killing the party is very difficult for the players, because you have to start at 1 and you have to work your way up. You can't just start a level 5 character. In a homebrew game, it's not quite so bad. You can resurrect, you can do whatever you want. But in my homebrew games as well, I've had to create situations where I've had to move plot elements around to create tension. I've also had to move plot elements away to relieve tension. What the party doesn't know can't hurt them if you've moved it. But with doing this, you must be careful. If the party realizes this is what you're doing, they may find it upsetting. Other times, I've had players congratulate me on the fact that I was able to modulate a fight so well. One of the times I did this, I had a combat where the fog was so dense the party could only see 15 feet in front of each other. So I had created a situation where the players were separated, but not in a way that was deadly. They could, in one move to see the other party members and get to where they needed to be, but they couldn't see the battlefield beyond that. So I was able to take the displacer beast they were fighting and move them around the battlefield and make sure that they were always fighting a correct level of fight. They weren't getting royally, rumbled in the jungle and just destroyed, and they weren't just destroying my beast haphazardly. There was always that moment of tension. There was always that moment where things could go wrong. They've used up all their spells. At the end of the fight, one player had almost gone down. The healer had used up all their spells. The tank had used up all their spells. And then suddenly the fight was called off. And no one felt cheated. They had killed one of the Displacer Beasts. No one had died. And it was all good. It could have gone disastrously wrong had I actually thrown all 4 Displacer Beasts at them at the same time as I had on the field, but because only 1 or 2 were attacking at a time, and they couldn't see the others, they had no idea how many there were, so the mystery was always there. If you do this on a plot-wide level, you run the risk of railroading. The players don't know where the castle is, so whatever direction they go, that's where the castle's going to be. Works in the short term, especially if it's a one-shot or something where you have time constraints, by all means, throw the castle right in their path all the time. But if this happens every time, where no matter what direction they choose willy-nilly, they always end up in the plot, in the direct main story plot, they're gonna start to feel a little railroaded. They're gonna hear the train coming. But to steal a page from my friend, if you instead know what is going on generally, you don't have to be specific, don't waste time on things the party will never see, but if you know what is generally happening around the party, and you know what the overarching plot is, and you know what the elements are, and what the NPCs will be doing behind the scenes, regardless of which way the party's going, any of the plot elements that are specific to each location, you can then weave into the main story because you already know where it's going. Now, with all of this, not only can you throw out plot elements, you can add monsters in, you can have them kick in the door and call in reinforcements, you can have them escape, you can have them run away, you can have ambushes be, somewhere else where the players would have initially broken down the door and run into a goblin ambush, but the party will die if you do that, so the goblin ambush is just outside of the building instead of inside of it, moving things around like that. You can also throw out rules. If the party has a plan and the rules say they can't do it because of some whatever, if that's going to become something that bogs down the party, throw the rule out. If something says that, the player can't have this specific feat, but, they have everything leading up to it, their character has been built for this, and whatever, throw the rules out. If they're doing something awesome, and suddenly you can't stop rolling 20s with the enemies, throw the rolls out. The story is the main thing. The camaraderie, the gameplay is the main thing. In one of my modules, again, I've had no trouble with modules because it's written in paper and it's very difficult to change things around as much without destroying, the story and having to write a whole new thing. I broke a lot of the rules. There was one point where I was playing Chapel on the Cliffs, and spoiler alert, there's a chapel with skeletons around it. If you've seen the cover of the book, this is the case. Now, in the actual story, anyone who steps inside the chapel gets attacked by skeletons. That's just the way it works. They will attack you constantly. Well, I was running the game with only 2 players, and circumstances had arisen that they were surrounded by 100-something skeletons. And if I had implemented the rule that as long as they're within the chapel, they get attacked by the skeletons, it would have ended the campaign right there, because there's no way my 2 characters would have made it through this. So I removed the rule and said that, the church itself, the chapel itself is holy ground, the skeletons can't cross it, and they just won't attack you so long as you're on the grounds. Even outside of the grounds, if you're not holding certain MacGuffins, they won't attack you. Now, this is not how the module was supposed to be run, but for the time being, this is what the rules are. And that leads me to my next point. Be consistent with this. Once you have made a rule, keep that rule going, because this allows the players to predict, this allows the players to plan. If we're adding in the flanking rule, or we're throwing out the flanking rule, or we're adding in the inspiration where players can give each other inspiration. Don't change this rule, session to session. Once you have a rule, keep it. Because I've played under DMs that were very fiat-y. anything they didn't like just got fiated out. And the things they didn't like changed from session to session. It became very frustrating because you could never predict what was going to happen next. You could never predict what things you were allowed to do and not allowed to do, what feats you were allowed to take and not allowed to take. Once you have made a ruling, stick with it. If you have a trouble remembering it, yeah, it's very upsetting. Yes, I know, Gwen. Write it down because, sometimes it's difficult to remember what you ruled 15 sessions ago or 3 weeks ago or 1 week ago because you had a crazy, week. As much as you should keep notes for yourself for your campaign reasons, keep notes for yourself on rulings. If this is the way you've said mechanics work, if you don't like the way grapple works, or the prone status works, or poison works, or whatever it is, throw the rules out, write the new rules down. Even better if you have something online like Roll20 or World Anvil or Pastebin or Discord or something where you can write the rules down in a place where everyone can see what they are. So that way, it's consistent and players can just go, hey, I was thinking about making a character in this main and, it's the night before the campaign, everyone's asleep, I can just look up to the rules and see how it would work or get an idea of how it would work. These rules don't directly apply to my character, but I can at least predict of how it's going to work based on the rulings that have come before. And that will smooth out so many things because if your players know what to expect and you're consistent in this, planning is going to become so much easier. Because now what your players have and what your players will be doing match what you are aware of. And what I mean by this is if you have certain ideas of what your players are able to do, you're able to plan for combats and situations that will highlight those characters and make them feel like they are in the center of the world because the abilities that they have will be useful in the world. It's, if you have a ranger with the favored enemy of giant and you're in the middle of the city where there's nothing but halflings, that is completely useless to them. Also, I totally think that urban should be a favored terrain if your ranger happens to be, a urchin or something. I'm just saying, game designers, I put it in the game, come fight me. Yeah. I'm sorry, my daughter was being cute and I lost my train of thought. What it comes down to is that the game is there to be fun. And the one biggest thing that I've come to learn as a DM is that I need to make sure that I myself am having fun as well as my player. And there's some times where there's a disconnect between being a DM and the amount of work that goes into it. Wow, I didn't realize how much work went into being a DM. With a player, D&D day comes around, you sit down, you open up your character sheet, you look at maybe you have notes from the previous game, maybe you don't, maybe you're lazy like I am and don't take notes. And you just sit down and start the game, and everything's fine. But as a DM, I have to start 3 days in advance, 4 days in advance, or weeks in advance to figure out all the plot elements. And I have to figure out not just, okay, if I was meeting people in person, I could just get a dry erase board and drop a map, do everything that I want with that. But now that I have to work in the realm of Corona and I have to work online, I have to spend a bit more time setting up Roll20 or, setting up all the maps and stuff. My fiance was complaining that sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and have ideas for game. Or I come into the room and shout, oh, I have it! And she's like, what? And I start talking about something, and halfway through, the first 3 sentences, she realizes that I'm not talking about anything with reality, I'm talking about D&D. And I'm so happy she finds this amusing. But the big thing is, you have to have fun as a DM. If you're not having fun as a DM, you either change something of what you're doing, change your pipeline of ideas, how you set things up. If making maps and taking 7 hours to do that isn't, is taking up too much of your life and you're no longer having fun, go online, find maps, steal them, do whatever. Or do theater of the mind. That works more than you think. And if you get to the point where you're just really not having fun as a DM, step down. Or, throw a one-shot. Or do something, silly. Do a whole session where they're in a bar drinking. Or just make up random characters and have them do a bar fight or something. where you don't have to plan anything. Like, if you're not having fun as a DM, your players aren't going to have fun either, because your stress is going to translate to them, your storytelling is going to suffer, your combats are going to suffer, the whole game is going to suffer. And the same thing goes around. If your players aren't having fun, it's going to feed back into you. You're not going to have fun either, because you're going to feel like your time is wasted. So anything that you can do to facilitate the game so that your players have fun and you have fun, that's good. And I think I've been rambling for about 20 minutes now. I try to edit out some of the pauses and gaps. But Gabe, I hope this is kind of what you were looking for. I hope this fills up a lot of your airtime. I hope this gets to you. Also, to everyone out there, thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this community. It has been a blast this last year. It has kept me sane in a lot of cases where I, kind of trapped inside. You guys have kind of been my social circle and my outlet, and I really appreciate that. Without this, I would have gone stir crazy. Also, I have been told that I have to tell this story. I got the game of Gloomhaven, the Gloomhaven Light, Jaws of the Lion, and I was attempting to teach my fiancé this game. It's a fairly complicated game, and there are moments where, for those of you who aren't familiar with the game of Gloomhaven, it is a tabletop RPG where your character is made up of a deck of cards, and each turn you have to play so many cards, and you have to shuffle them, and when you run out of cards in your hand, your character is exhausted and has to leave. Well, one of the things that you can do is a short rest, where at the end of your turn, you can discard a card, shuffle cards back into your hand, and you don't get any health, but you keep going. If you take a long rest, it takes your entire turn, you gain a little bit of health, and you get to choose what card you discard, and you shuffle up. Now, in the game of Gloomhaven, every turn matters, because the game is hard as balls, and is always trying to kill you, and if you're one card off at the very end, you may die just before the end when you've spent 3 hours playing through a session, and you have to play through it again. And there was one session where I, being the tank, was just getting wailed on, and my fiancé, who was playing a ranged fighter, was just taking long rests all the time. And just, I'm just like, hey, you're leaving me to die over here. And she's like, yeah, I need to take a long rest. I need to take a long rest. And I was like, does she not understand the game? Does she not understand, how this is working? Have I failed? I don't want to be that overbearing, person that's, always telling people what to do on their turns, because everybody hates that. And I don't want to become the person that, is so overbearing that nobody wants to game with me. Well, the session went, we ended up winning by the skin of our teeth, and finally she flipped over. Her hidden objective was that she wasn't able to take a short rest the entire session, because she got bonus points if she only took long rest. And I realized that not only did she understand the game, she was playing it perfectly. And, this can also be taken to D&D too. There's no way you can know all of the time. And just because somebody is playing their character differently than you expect doesn't mean they're playing it wrong. So before you criticize them or tell them how they should be playing the character, figure out why they're doing what they may teach you something that you didn't realize was going on. Thanks for the great year, guys. Hopefully 2021 will be better, and we'll be able to actually in person and game. If you ever come to California, then bye. Oh, Gabe, this is a little addendum here. I realize that a lot of people kind of ask, how do you make up magic items? And I will tell you very simply, figure out what your players need and give it. If they need something that tells them where hidden things are, make up a rod that vibrates when it senses movement. I threw that into one of my games with the Displacer Beast running around, and it really helped them out. If they need something to detect poison, make up a mundane concoction that detects poison. Give them what they want or what they need in a fashion that fits in with the story. And then find ways for your enemies to abuse the crap out of it.
All right. Thank you very much, Dustin. So I guess that'll do it for the listener submissions. But I still wanted to continue some social media questions. So our last social media question was, what is your favorite cantrip and why is it your favorite? Do you recall what answer you had, Jeff?
I think I ended up with Bonfire.
Okay, great. Bonfire.
It has a lot of different uses. It's not overly powerful,
mm-hmm.
but it but it's still like you can use it as an attack. You can use it as a sort of like zoning spell.
Sure.
To like you kind of block an area, or just, or you can just make a bonfire so you can cook food or have light or something.
Yeah, great utility and great damage.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah. I think I might have said Ray of Frost. That's what I used for the photo. I used the 3rd edition Player's Handbook photo of Ray of Frost. There's like this goofy-looking wizard casting Ray of Frost on a rose.
Okay, I think.
Anyway, I don't know if you remember that photo or not. It's on anyway. So I think it said Ray of Frost, but of course, like prestidigitation is like an easy answer, but I tried not to say prestidigitation. So over on Facebook, Ryan P says Toll the Dead, excellent low-level damage dealer, though it's hard to pass up the utility of something like Minor Illusion. If I'm not mistaken, Toll the Dead does 1d12 if the target has not taken damage yet.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good one. Justin H says, Minor Illusion, great for distractions and, well, need cover. Oh, look, a wall. And yeah, that's pretty good. That's actually all we got on Facebook. On Twitter, we got I think we have a bunch on Discord. So on Twitter, that's Carl with a K says, I love the mending cantrip. It's incredibly useful. It's handy to get NPCs on your side when you help them repair things for them. It can also be used in unconventional means, such as breaking a hollowed stick and then mending it to hide a message for your party. And that's really cool. Like, I don't know if I ever thought of using mending in a way to hide something, or I don't know.
Gabe, that's how they make fortune cookies.
So speaking of fortune cookies, small little tangent here. Lisa got a box in the mail from her friends Amanda and Chris. Not Chris
Dang
or Tennessee Chris, but a different Chris.
Okay.
They sent Lisa a box for a box with some stuff for Christmas. She opened it up, and you know what is inside that box, Jeff?
A bunch of fortune cookies.
400 fortune cookies.
Okay.
And apparently this morning I was asleep, I was sort of woken up by this, but apparently our dog, Superhands,
oh no,
went into the living room.
Oh no.
Grabbed one fortune cookie and brought it to the bed and handed it to Lisa. So Lisa opened it up and gave him half, and then I think she ate half.
Okay, I thought you were going to say he ate all of them.
No, he the first day we had it, he did get into 2 of them, which is he's normally pretty good about that. He will never take food unless you give it to him. But I guess the allure of the 400 fortune cookies was too much for him. But today, no, he when he got it, brought it to Lisa so that she could give him a treat.
Oh, God,
he will take you to a treat. If he knows that there is food on the counter, he will bring you over, and then, direct your attention to the food on the counter. Because clearly it's not being eaten, so it could be eaten by a dog.
Right. Somebody's got to handle this.
Right.
It's like... Well, that's good, because I feel like you lucked out in that aspect of his behavior.
Right. He's not he's not the best dog in the world, but he's better than I give him credit for. But and I think that the fortune in the fortune cookie that he brought this morning, it said something about basically your employment is going to change soon or something. So
jeez,
I don't know if that means he's getting a job or one of the 2 of us is getting fired. I guess we'll find out.
Your schedule is changing. I don't know.
Dang, Jeff, you just solved it. Okay. All right. Next up on Twitter, the DM's Council says prestidigitation from 3.0 to 5.0 has been a staple of any caster class. It is super versatile and utilitarian. If used correctly, it can give bonuses and advantage in situations. Want to sway the crowd as a bard? Make strobe lights and auto-tune your voice to rock the house. Yeah, that's pretty good.
You could prestidigitation and do sandstorm.
Good, yeah. Next up on Twitter is Arabella Sprock, which I don't think this person has ever replied to any of our stuff before, so that's cool. Mine is probably the light cantrip, which I used to use all the time because having a party member without dark vision can get complicated. My close second is probably either prestidigitation or thaumaturgy, just because of all their applications. And yeah, light is a good one. It's real simple, but it does a very important purpose.
Right, yeah. And then with prestidigitation and thaumaturgy, they're sort of similar way things in their own like school.
Yeah.
And then there's Druidic, which is like supposed to be the same, but it just is not. It has way more specific things you can do. Like Prestidigitation is kind of like do whatever.
Yeah.
Thaumaturgy is like you could do, these like 5 things, but you can vary them up a little bit. And then Druidic is like, the weather.
Yeah, it's like you can do this cool thing, but only in regards to the weather.
Right. You know, it's like
only in regards to the weather or growing a plant.
Right. And then like, what's the limit on that? Because it's either the most overpowered thing ever or it's nothing.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. Over on Reddit, Alistar the Minotaur says, it's tough to not pick Prestidigitation. There's just so much you can do with it, utility and shenaniganery related.
Good.
This episode.
I know.
If you're looking at damaging spells, Chill Touch is great to stop enemies from healing, and the new cantrip Mind Sliver is really good to help your party make good use of their abilities or to help your other spells land. I'm actually not familiar with Mind Sliver. That might be in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, which I've flipped through it a bunch of times. I haven't just like sat down and read everything. The Witchmaker General on Reddit says, Dancing Lights, not for its effects, but for a story behind the spell. My favorite deity in Forgotten Realms lore is Eilistraee. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but Eilistraee, something like that. The righteous rebel who strives to free the Drow elves from the grip of the spider-like Lolth and her family, the Dark Seldarine. Records of her existence are banned within Drow society, but Drow racial traits hint that her presence is felt by all her people, enlightened or otherwise. Eilistraee often appears to her followers as an elven figure in a pyre dancing around a sword, especially under moonlight. Intriguingly, Dancing Lights in one of its effects creates a spectral figure in light. While this could be a coincidence, as the cantrip is a racial trait among Drow that, unlike other Drow magic, requires high levels, and racial magic is different from magic based on class features, I interpret this to be a reflection of the goddess' presence within the minds of all Drow, revealing that there's hope in all of them in her eyes to be redeemed and reclaimed from the clutches of the Drow Mother. And that's one powerful narrative to draw from a simple cantrip. I have to say, that is fantastic.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, again, I don't know if that's supposed to be canon, but like that's a great extrapolation of the details that are there. I would be 100% on board if a player showed up with that. I would be 100% on board with making that canon.
Right, absolutely.
That's like Dark Souls levels of, okay, this item description says this thing. In the room where you find it, there's like, this thing leaning up against the wall. And so I, took that, and then this boss drops this when you kill them and so on. Like, I love that kind of stuff when it works. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So good job. Good job, Witchmaker General. And then Arcanist Winterbrand on Reddit says, Shocking Grasp. There was an adventure I was a part of that the DM planned to span about 3 sessions, which gave me a much-needed break from DMing at the time. I made a wizard who, in the truest of form, was a stereotypical glass cannon. The first combat of the game, the party was ambushed. I rolled incredibly high for initiative and tested the waters with a Shocking Grasp. Rolled a crit with near max damage. I decided that my wizard, who wasn't an adventurer as much as researcher, assumed this attack was always this powerful, and for the rest of the short campaign would charge into the front lines when the moment was right with Shocking Grasp, like a sociopath. All right, over on Discord, eThompson03 says Eldritch Blast, because it's basically the entire basis of one class's spell damage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that just because if you're not a warlock, it's kind of a crappy spell.
Right.
I mean, it's not a crappy spell. It's not in any way noteworthy. It's basically Firebolt, but force damage,
Sure. Yeah.
Stiltskin Koopo 84 says, Mage Hand was my favorite cantrip in 4th edition. Not only could arcane classes get it, but also rogues who took the arcane trickster builds could get it too. And Ghost Sound, which I think is less useful. Yeah. The Beverage Tea says, it's not the most useful, but it is my favorite. Word of Radiance from Xanathar's Guide to Everything. I'm playing a War Domain Cleric in Curse of Strahd, and being able to wade into a group of undead and then sear the F out of them with radiant damage is just awesome. I describe my cleric raising his hands and blindfolded eyes up to Tyr, and tiny gnomish and halfling spirits in Tyr vestments slashing at the undead with brilliant blades while chanting hymns of justice and might. Debrasor says, for this there can be only one. It does not need to do damage for possibility of resistances, and you can always use a weapon if needed anyway. It needs to help in roleplay as well as combat. It needs to be good in nearly every situation. It is guidance. Bard out of inspiration or no bard? Take my D4. Need to roll your way out of an encounter? Take my D4. Need to make sure that grapple check succeeds? Here, Conan, D4. It's that dice mages once had for hit dice. Hate your party or don't have one anymore? Use it on yourself. That's pretty good.
Yeah, guidance is pretty good. Yeah.
Mylers says, Spare the Dying becomes the most terrifying cantrip in either an evil campaign or when a player becomes kidnapped by a cleric who worships the big bad evil guy. Enemy not being forthcoming with information about the enemy? Insert awful thing here. Cleric, spare the dying on this guy until he talks.
Wait, what is Spare the Dying?
It's when they're at 0 hit points, stops them from actually dying. Oh. So the idea is then that you will torture them.
Sure.
Or you will keep them from the sweet release of death.
Gotcha. Oh, wow. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Autumn Wind says, Shape Water. It is the endlessly useful utility spell. Watch the cartoon, they specified, Avatar The Last Airbender if you need ideas, because this cantrip is basically water bending for utility. You can also push water into a locking mechanism, then freeze it if you don't have Thieves' Tools. Create a tripping hazard prior to combat or in a narrow corridor. Obtain water from a natural source easily for survival. Impress your friends with miniature models and make them dance. I don't think I've ever made a full caster without this cantrip.
Huh.
And yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Floofy Shoob says Prestidigitation from, I think, first edition Unearthed Arcana. So many different uses. I'm actually not familiar with the first edition version. Dustin says, I'm going to give a shout out to our old pal Light. 5e has kind of sidelined them by giving nearly every race dark vision, but think of all those times we would have been lost if we did not have our little sun dude. And final one, Flash85 says, favorite cantrip would have to be Guidance. It has so many uses. So yeah, that's we had a lot of good responses from everybody.
Yeah.
So we're not going to do a funeral pyre today, but before we close out, our next social media question is one that I kind of want to talk about for a minute. What are some changes you wish to see in the podcast in the next year? So this is not tabletop gaming related, hence why I kind of wanted to put it here in this bonus episode instead of a regular episode. Jeff, do you have anything that you would like to see change in the podcast in the next year?
Jeez, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but
sure.
I'm interested to see what people suggest.
Sure. Yeah. And this this can be like stuff you want us to cover. Maybe if you have any ideas for another segment or something, I don't know if it would have to be a real good segment for us to change up our format, but
sure.
Give us suggestions, anything that you would like to see change about the podcast. If you want me to get somebody else instead of me, if you want me to have get our friend Steve to host the podcast instead.
Right. Yeah. So people just start suggesting new hosts. Like, oh, all right.
Sure. Oh, get Matt Mercer on there. Have him host the podcast.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So I'm call him up right now. Hold on.
There you go. Well, here's the thing. So we did that episode about the Matt Mercer effect.
Right.
Turns out our friend Jay knows Matt Mercer.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I wish I'd known that before making that episode.
Yeah,
not that I think we could have gotten him on the show or anything, but
but yeah,
just would have been cool to I don't know, give him a shout out and I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah.
So one thing that I would like to see change in the podcast in the next year is more guests. It has been almost a full year since the last time we had guests on.
That's true. Yeah, we did guests for we would be doing guests for every other month for a while there.
Yeah, we had guests fairly often in the previous year. I actually checked. I wanted to see, has it been a whole year since we had guests on? It has not been quite a year. I think in the third episode of 2020, we had Jesse and Sean from DMs of Vancouver on.
Oh, right, yeah.
And there's sort of a reason we haven't had guests on. When the quarantine hit, like many people, I'm sure, I didn't think it was going to be for that long. I was hoping it would just be for like a couple months. And then I in my head, part of me was like, no, like just keep the normal podcast format for the time being. Just wait until the quarantine's over, till Jeff and I are recording in person again, and don't change anything up. The little voice in my head kept telling myself that. So I was a little bit resistant to reaching out for new guests and so on. So that was my reasoning at the time. Looking back, of course, that was stupid. Like this should be the easiest time ever to have guests, especially when I wasn't working for those 2 months. Would have been the easiest time in the world to have guests. But
right, yeah.
Whatever the case, it's been almost a year. We haven't had any guests. I want to change that. I do want to have a lot of guests this year.
Sure.
Yeah, so I want to have more guests this year. In fact, I'm going to extend an invitation. If anybody out there would like to be a guest on the podcast, or someone who you think would be a good guest, maybe a podcast you listen to, and you want us to reach out, let us know. If we get flooded with a ton of people that are all wanting to be guests on the podcast, maybe we will have some criteria to vet those requests, maybe, approve or deny some people, but we won't know until we get submissions. I actually don't expect to get a ton of people saying they would like to be on the podcast. We'll find out,
right?
I guess.
Yeah.
But we've been doing this for 4 years, and I think we have at least a small group of people that are like really active and respond to a lot of stuff. So yeah, if anybody out there would like to be on the show, or again, if you know of a podcast you want us to reach out to have them on our show, let us know. We'll think about it. We'll take everything into consideration and see what we can do this year to make it better than the previous year.
Right. And like for those like if you were nervous or anything about it, I mean, I guess we don't have to do like a full episode featuring you or anything like that. If you want to just come in for like a short segment or something, we could always do something like that too.
Yeah, just get in contact with us and we'll figure out what we can do.
All right.
So again, a big thank you to everybody. I mean, this is still this is technically the final episode of our 4th year, because our first episode was came out on like January 7th or something like that. So our next episode will be the beginning of a new year. So we already said this last time, but just a huge thank you to everybody for listening. A huge thank you to everybody who has submitted questions, who has submitted magic items, everybody who's joined the Discord and, just taking part in discussion. You guys are awesome. It's so crazy that we've been doing this for 4 years. We still have, a good number of listeners. We have a good number of people. Heck, we have a good number of people that are willing to pay us, to donate to us every month to help us cover costs and everything. It's just, it blows me away, the amount of just warm thoughts and enthusiasm and everything that we're able to get from everybody. So huge thank you to everybody out there.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, so I think that'll do it for today. If anybody would like to submit questions for us to discuss in future episodes, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the Funeral Pyre or Retirement Village, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned on the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, check us out at interpartyconflict.com. You can join the discussion on social media. We're on Facebook. We're on Reddit. We're on our Interparty Discord. We're on Twitter at InPartyConflict. Check those out for our weekly social media questions. Your answers might end up on the show. Find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. If you'd like to support the show monetarily, check out the rewards at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. We have a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content for it. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is a YouTube channel where you can watch us play video games, or you can come join me at twitch.tv/tiltedturtle to watch me play games live.
There you go. Also head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict to take a short survey about our show, what you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hackers RPG. So Jeff, until next time,
let's raise a glass to 4 years.
4 years. There we go.
Clink.